What is up, guys? In today's video, we'll be talking about a major tornado outbreak that is about to impact the US. Here's what you need to know. Big storms are already impacting the United States currently right now, especially in many areas and portions of northern Oklahoma, parts of western Missouri, and southeastern Kansas areas where we do have the potential for straight line damaging winds, very large hail, and maybe even tornadoes that could be possible in some of these areas. So if you are in areas like Tulsa, Springfield, Missouri, many of those areas, south of Kansas City, Independence, Kansas, all those areas you do need to be weather aware for severe weather potential, especially Fayetteville, Arkansas there too, as we could see some tornadic thunderstorms and maybe even big hailers too. Bigger picture is tomorrow, Monday's severe weather threat, as we do have an enhanced risk of severe storms in those orange areas, ranging all the way from Dubuque to Chicago, all the way down to St. Louis, Missouri, all the way down to Evansville areas. And I do think we're going to see some major changes to this outlook. Areas like Chicago, Davenport, and Springfield, Illinois, and Peoria areas are under this enhanced risk for big time tornado possibilities, especially if you are in any of these yellow areas, brown and yellow areas, we could see big time tornadoes from St. Louis all the way up to Davenport, Dubuque areas, Columbia, Jefferson City, Decatur, all under this dangerous tornado threat. We could see EF2, EF3 strong, potentially dangerous tornadoes, dangerous long track tornadoes that could be possible, especially in any of these yellow and brown areas. And the damaging wind threat is going to be very severe. We have a red and a pink area. If you are in those areas, that means you have a 45% chance of seeing damaging straight line winds. This is a very high percentage of damaging winds in these regions, which means 60 to 70 miles an hour gusts could impact many of these areas when these supercells do congeal into a line of storms. And the hail threat is a little bit further towards the east. And what you notice is there's a big cutoff with the hail threat. The areas that are in that wind risk, oh man, I keep adding it to the wrong thing here. I don't know why it's doing that. But the main risk for hail is over here, while the wind risk was including these areas, and there's no hail risk in the areas that got the winds. That's because it's going to first develop as these supercells over here, and those won't be as much of wind risk, more big hailers. That's why these 36 area is where you could see big time damaging hail, 2 to 3 inches in diameter potentially is what they're saying. So big time hail in these areas. It's going to first develop as supercells and then congeal into a line in these areas for that straight line damaging wind threat, but not hail. So the big hail threat is in these red areas. If you are in these red areas, make sure you get your cars indoors as big time hail as possible with this. Now, there's a lot of uncertainties going into this severe weather threat. The level 3 out of 5, if you're in the yellow or orange areas, you do need to be weather aware. I don't think they're really putting enough oomph into this southern threat down here. I do think the highest tornado threat is definitely going to be down south in these areas. I think this area has the highest potential risk for tornadoes that we do have tomorrow. These northern areas, they haven't some of the higher tornado threats, but we're going to have morning storms. See the storms that are impacting the areas in Sunday, today, are going to move through these areas during the morning hours and really destroy that. It's going to cause more stable air. It could be severe in the morning for some of these areas, damaging winds and hail potential, but it will be a lot weaker, but it'll cause stable air. So then that daylight heating and that instability won't be able to shoot up into much of these areas. And that means there's no severe weather. So a lot of these northern areas could be cut off. We're really watching this. It depends on what happens today. If we don't get this morning storms, then this whole area could get very dangerous severe weather and be upgraded to a moderate risk. But if we do, then a lot of these areas up north will be cut off of the enhanced risk, and areas down south I do think areas down south are the highest confidence for dangerous storms down here, where the morning storms won't impact it as much. But right now they're saying the line for the instability is kind of right there, right north of St. Louis, where we have a lot of uncertainty in these areas and a little bit more certainty down here. Now, this does not at all mean that you shouldn't be weather aware. You should be very weather aware, as dangerous storms could be possible on Monday in any of these areas. The only fail mode, guys, this is going to be a very volatile environment. The only fail mode is this morning storms. And if we take a look at a few of the models, we're going to look at the 18Z HRR, and the HRR really show those morning storms, impacting much of these areas during the morning hours at 7 a.m. on Monday across much of these areas. St. Louis, Missouri, Springfield, Illinois, all these areas get impacted by morning storms. That's going to kind of put a stop to some of that severe weather because of the stable air that's going to come through. And it has it occurring in these areas for a long time, even almost into the afternoon hours. But this is going to be such a volatile threat that this instability that's down in portions of Oklahoma and Kansas and Missouri is going to shoot up so quickly that right when this morning convection leaves, it's going to be go time. And look at this. It shows it barely stretching up into portions of Missouri. And there's a lot of instability there, especially on the roof of that. And if we look at the significant tornado parameter, look at these parameters up near St. Louis. This is very, very high in St. Louis and southern Missouri and southern Illinois areas. So it really just depends. Because look up here where the highest tornado probabilities are, there's no instability at all for tornadoes because it has these morning storms impacting this. So it's really just the sheer amount of morning convection that comes through will really change things for these areas and really determine how dangerous the severe weather threat is going to be for much of these regions, as we really don't know that yet. But we will figure it out as we're watching these storms throughout the nighttime hours, and the Storm Prediction Center will fix their outlook and change it up once we get more of a grip. So this is going to be a lot of uncertainty. We really don't know what's going to happen right now, so we're not going to get the most confidence until tomorrow morning of exactly what is going to happen. But all we know is this model has some big time instability, and if we look at the radar, this is kind of a simulated radar, not sometimes always too accurate, but look at all that rain coming through, man. So much morning convection. And then this severe weather develops down here. Look at that severe weather. It forms out of nowhere around 7 p.m. and brings big time hailers and even damaging tornadoes. We get those supercells that just develop out of nowhere in portions of Missouri into Illinois as it moves towards the south. So really just a little bit of uncertainties, but the environment's going to be super volatile. If we look at the NAM 3-kilometer model, it has the same thing happening. We get a little bit of morning storms, but this one actually has the instability advecting a little bit further north, so it's going to be a very volatile parameter space. And look at the significant tornado parameters, guys. This is literally the extremely high significant tornado parameters for a volatile, dangerous tornado outbreak day in portions of Missouri and Illinois. Look at those significant tornado parameters. And if you look at the low-level winds, we're going to have a ton of wind shear out here, guys. Look how strong that is going to be in much of these areas. So this environment's primed for tornadoes. It just depends on how much this morning convection is going to stabilize the air. If the environment's more unstable, then we will see tornadoes. It's really just uncertain right now. But look at the NAM 3-kilometers. Big storms entering St. Louis and portions of southern Missouri in these areas around the 7 p.m. hours. And we look at the RRFS, which this isn't always my favorite model, the RRFS, but it has those morning storms rolling throughout the day. And then look, the environment recovers really, really quickly. Look how fast this thing recovers. And the significant tornado parameters are back up into central Missouri. This model is very similar to the HRR with this. And look, we got big supercells developing in these areas around Monday at 6 p.m. So it really just, and then up north, up here, nothing. Absolutely nothing. No environment for tornadoes. So really just don't know exactly where the highest tornado threat is going to be right now. But right now, I do have the most certainty towards these areas. I think if there is tornadoes, it's going to be these areas that has the highest tornado threat. And to be honest, if you are in any of these zones in the enhanced risk, just have a plan and be prepared for tomorrow, as dangerous storms are going to occur. And these could be very, very bad storms. This is going to be a very dangerous day. So make sure you have a plan and be prepared if you are in these enhanced risk in the orange and yellow areas tomorrow. Morning storms that roll through a lot of these areas and portions of Missouri and Illinois are also going to cause some very, very heavy rainfall with this. We're going to see a lot of rainfall, potentially 1 to 2 inches of rainfall in some spots, and it really just, we don't know. Some of these storms could train over the same areas over and over again. The 18Z HRR has nearly 3 inches of rain north of St. Louis, so we really don't know that yet. But the Weather Prediction Center has definitely hinted at this, showing this yellow areas in a 15% chance of flash flooding. So if you're on these yellow areas, Chicago down to St. Louis to Evansville and Indianapolis, the morning storms that we do have could cause some dangerous flash flooding in these areas. So definitely make sure you are getting your alerts if flash flooding is possible in your area, if you're in those yellow areas. We also have a slight risk of severe storms in effect on a Tuesday from Dallas, Texas, all the way to Nashville, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, and Little Rock, Arkansas areas, where we do have this slight risk in the yellow for severe storms, where we could get some dangerous storms developing on Tuesday. This is not going to be nearly as volatile as today and Monday, but we are watching this severe weather threat from Tennessee down to Texas. So if you're on these areas, definitely have a plan and be prepared on Tuesday. We're not expecting this to be a crazy day, and Monday could bring some implications onto how the environment stabilizes in these areas and how far north this severe threat spreads. But if you're on these areas, definitely have a plan and be prepared tomorrow for some bad storms. Now, aside from all the severe weather talk, if we talk about the temperatures, we're going to be seeing a big time pattern change after a lot of the severe weather rolls through. The weather is going to be a lot cooler across much of the central U.S., a little bit less severe weather. And look at this. This whole part of the central and eastern U.S. in below average temperatures. We've not seen below average temperatures in these areas in a long, long time. This is a 6 to 10 day outlook that we do have for next week. Look at this, a lot of cooler weather that we're going to be having. And then portions of the Northwest, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, it's still going to be very warm and above average in these areas. Now, that's still below average temperatures in the eastern U.S. and central U.S. Doesn't mean it's going to be very cold outside. It just means below the normal average. Right now, in a lot of these areas, the average temperature is 70, 75 degrees. This could be more like 60 or 65 degrees with these below average temperatures. So it's been really warm lately. It's felt like basically summer for a lot of these areas. Very warm April we've had, but this is definitely going to put a little bit of a stop to that, causing more cooler weather across a lot of the U.S. And then basically the pattern right now, we've had this warmer weather in the eastern U.S., cooler weather. It's basically going to flip. We're going to see warmer weather in the western U.S. and cooler weather in the central and eastern U.S. that we are going to be seeing. In the weeks 3 to 4 pattern continues this. It says the southern U.S. down here gets more above average and the western U.S. But areas in the northern and central U.S. see more cooler weather getting into early May and maybe even the middle of May too. So definitely some relief from these warm weather. Just it's going to feel more like springtime now. Alrighty, hope you guys did enjoy today's video. A lot to talk about with that, especially with that Monday severe weather threat. It's going to be very volatile, potentially dangerous severe weather threat, but there is some uncertainties with those morning storms. But if you are in those orange areas that I did mention, make sure you have a plan and be prepared, as this could be a dangerous threat. And you make sure you need to have alerts, as big hail, tornadoes, and damaging winds are possible. It will continue into Tuesday's severe weather threat too, with some isolated storms, nothing too crazy. And some flash flooding could be possible on Monday with this severe weather threat. And it's going to get cooler across much of the eastern and central U.S. Definitely going to feel more like springtime in a lot of these areas, while it stays a lot warmer than average in the western U.S. Thanks for watching this video. Bye, guys.